Usual disclaimers, the lighting is crap, there's planes flying overhead. Let's go. Hi! It's been a while, hasn't it? I took a bit of a break after the end of Vlogtober because Vlogtober was really intense and it really took it out of me, man. So I haven't sat down in front of a camera for a while, so it feels a little bit awkward, but I'm hoping I can just make it through this video the way I normally do. So maybe I should do a bit of a recap of my Vlogtober experience. It was fun. I did better than I thought I would. I honestly didn't believe at the beginning of the month that I would manage to upload a video every single day. Not all of the videos are things that I'm necessarily very proud of. Some of them turned out really great, even some of the ones that I didn't really expect to do anything went really well. Some of them are very clearly just filler videos, but that's fine by me. It wasn't about creating 31 amazing pieces of content. It was just about making it through 31 days. Now let's move into the fun stuff and talk about the books that I read in October, because even though today is like the 17th or something of November, I still haven't done an October wrap-up and I considered skipping it, but I read a lot of books that I want to talk about, so I'm not going to skip it. I'm going to talk about them. So the first book I finished in October is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. It feels like ages that I've read this book, and it's been ages. So I read this book for the Titles All the Way Countdown, which is a readathon that Penguin Random House hosted in the run-up to the release of John Green's new book, Titles All the Way Down. This is probably John Green's most hyped book, I feel like, and I had mixed feelings going in because I tend to be very skeptical about hype books, and to be fair, I'm probably harsher on them than I need to be. I have to say that I ended up enjoying this book more than I thought I would. I don't necessarily love all of it and I don't agree with all of it, but I think all in all it's a solid book, and I definitely understand why it speaks to people so much. Plus, I really enjoyed that so much of it was set in the Netherlands, as that is where I live. I ended up rating this book 3 out of 5 stars, which is what I rate all of John Green's books. It means for me that, you know, I don't love them to death, but they're nice. They're not necessarily for me, but they're good books. I then read The Naked Shore of the North Sea by Tom Blass, which is a non-fiction book about the North Sea and all the countries and the islands in it and around it. I have a very close connection with the North Sea. I grew up on an island that is in the North Sea, and even now I only live a few kilometers away from it. I loved reading about the history of the area and the different cultures that existed, and some still exist, around seafaring and fishing and everything that the sea kind of brings. The language of this book is a little bit pretentious and like overly poetic and flowery, but I like the content so much that I'm willing to forgive that. I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Next up, I read Titles All the Way Down by John Green. After all of the effort and time and energy that I put into the read-along, I figured I might as well read this one to kind of finish it off. I have to say that after reading the first chapter of this book, the first chapter appeared online as part of the promo campaign for the book, I wasn't super excited about it. The main character seemed a bit flat to me and I just didn't feel very engaged. But in reading the book, I did connect more to the character and I ended up enjoying it more than I thought I would. I, unsurprisingly, rated this book 3 out of 5 stars. I then read The Sun and Her Flowers by Rupi Kaur. This is her second poetry collection. The first one was Milk and Honey. I had quite high expectations for this one because I loved Milk and Honey so much, and maybe that was stupid because I didn't end up loving this one quite as much. I'm by no means an experienced reader of poetry, so I can't quite put my finger on it, but I just didn't feel as connected to most of the poems in this collection. Some of them were really great and really kind of touched me, but most of them just felt a little bit like far away. I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. In reality, it's probably closer to 3.5, but as you know, half stars are not a thing on Goodreads. Next up, I read Bad Girls Throughout History by Anne Shen. I talked about this book in one of my Vlogtober videos, and then I figured I might as well read it myself. Otherwise, I always feel like a bit of a hypocrite if I talk about books and recommend books without reading them myself. So this book is similar to Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls in that it presents mini biographies, like one-page biographies of women paired with a portrait. The difference is that all of these portraits were done by the same woman who is also the author of the book, and in Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls there's 60 different female artists who created the 100 portraits. I enjoyed the book. I always like learning tidbits about historical figures and historical women, especially because obviously they're very underrepresented in our history telling. I don't think that's how you say that, but I didn't love that the book focuses quite heavily on American women because it doesn't present itself as such, and I only found it out through reading. And also, I can't help comparing this book to Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls, obviously, and what I really liked about that collection is that most of the women in that book were people that I'd never heard of before, and most of the women in this book are already quite famous and we already know quite a lot about their stories. And that's fine, obviously, if that's the choice you're making as an author, then that's the choice you're making. But I feel like a lot of the people in this book didn't necessarily need the extra attention, at least not over other people whose stories we've never heard, you know, whose voices have not been represented before. Next, I read When the Moon Was Ours by Anna Marie McLemore. This is a book that I got from the Bookley Bird Magical Realism subscription box months ago, but for some reason I just never got round to picking it up. I finally decided to read it in October, which worked out really well because it's set in autumn, and so there's very vivid descriptions of autumn leaves and colours and pumpkins and chill air and all that goodness. I already mentioned this book a couple of times while I was still reading it because I love it so much and I've been recommending it to everyone. So this is a magical realism YA story, and it's about two children who are both different, and I want to use that word very carefully because it often has a very negative connotation in YA, like a kind of special snowflake type of different, but I don't want to be more specific because I don't want to give anything away about the book. Like I said, there's lots of autumn scenery, which is great. There's lots of descriptions of hair colours and eye colours and their significance. There's lots of strange, mysterious magic, and there are a lot of very important themes such as identity, gender identity, cultural identity, family history, choosing your own family, lots of very important topical stuff like that. I rated this book 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I made it a staff recommendation at work, and it's just such a good book. I highly recommend it. Final book that I read in October, and I finished this on the 31st of October, is The Book of Dust by Philip Pullman. Now, this is the first book. It says here Volume 1, La Belle Sauvage. This is the first book in a trilogy that is going to be in itself a prequel to the His Dark Materials trilogy. I love the original series and I was very excited when I heard about The Book of Dust. I was also a little bit nervous that this book was not going to live up to the expectations that I was kind of creating for myself. As you may have gathered from this video, but probably also from previous wrap-ups, I have the tendency to overhype books for myself, which is really dumb because then they can only disappoint. Thankfully, this is a really good book and I love it a bit. It's set about 10 years before the beginning of Northern Lights, and it's about this boy named Malcolm who lives in a pub that his parents run, and across the river is this priory where the nuns are taking care of a little baby called Lyra. Obviously there's a lot of excitement and adventure, and there are some hints about stuff that happens later on in the His Dark Materials trilogy, but what I really loved was just going back into that world, into Lyra's world. I really love the vibe of this book. It's also probably to do with the time of year that I read it in, but it's such a good book and I'm so happy that I read it. Alright, so that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's been a while, I'm back. Let me know how you feel about it or don't. I have a couple of things lined up for upcoming videos, a couple of ideas and stuff that I didn't get to in October, but as always, if there is anything that you'd like me to talk about or any questions you'd like me to answer, leave a comment down below and I will get to it when I get to it, which should be soon. Should probably be soon, although December is coming up. Also, random side note, if you are Dutch or you live in the Netherlands and you're planning to come to Castlefest, I'll be playing there with my band on the Saturday, so that's the 25th. So I might see you there if you're interested. My band is really cool. My fellow band members are all of them cooler than I am, so should be great. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you again next time. Bye!